Hello students, we are still working on Chapter 9 Lesson 7, but today we're doing the homework, my homework page from Chapter 9 Lesson 7. So we're just picking up where we left off yesterday with a little more practice. So nothing new today, just some more practice with subtracting fractions. So here we go, we've got find 2/5 minus 1/10. And remember, I want you to, I should have told you the page. My apologies. We are on page 655. 655. And we're doing the homework after yesterday's page. So we're going to be working on this. Remember, I don't want you to follow this because they don't give you enough stuff to write in. They just kind of show you how to do it. So I want you to get lots of practice doing it. So let's go ahead and if you're stuck, feel free to read this, but if you're following along with me, you shouldn't need to at this point. So we've got 2/5 minus 1/10, and I like to stack when I add or subtract fractions so that it's real easy for me to change the denominators. So I'm going to ask myself, do I have the same denominators? So step one, I'm going to ask about denominators. Ask like or unlike. Are they like denominators or are they unlike denominators? These are unlike, so we're going to change, we're going to think of a common denominator. Step two, if unlike, find common denominator. Oh, it's right there below it, denominator. So there's lots of ways you can do it. You can always multiply the two denominators together. That's one way you can always do it. If you're stuck and you don't know what to do, you can always multiply. So 5 times 10 is 50. We're going to change the denominator to 50. Now we also could have used 10, and that would have saved us from having, because 5 goes into 10. And that's one thing I like to do too. I like to, when I first look, I like to ask myself, can I multiply one of them to get to the other? So 5 times 2 is 10. So let's watch what happens. I'm going to change them into both, and I'm going to show you that you can use either one. You can use any common denominator. So let's do the 50s first. 5 times what gives you 50? 5 times 10. 2 times 10, we do the same thing to the top that we did to the bottom. 2 times 10 is 20. Now I go down here, 10 times what is 50? 10 times 5, do the same thing to the top that we did to the bottom. 1 times 5 is 5. Now I subtract. So my denominators are the same. It's a subtraction problem. 20 minus 5 is 15. And the denominator stays the same. So now let's take a look at the tens. Let's pretend that we are changing from a fifth to a 10. This is just extra, a different way to do it. 5 times what gives you 10? 5 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 10 times what gives you 10? Nothing. We get to leave that one. It's 10 times 1. It's already done. So now we subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3, and the denominator stays the same. But wait a minute, Mrs. Bodell, that's two different answers. I thought you said I'd get the same thing. Well, this one is simplified, and this one is not yet. So we can actually divide out a 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 50 divided by 5 is 10. So we get 3/10 if we simplify. Okay, let's do the practice at the bottom of the page. We've got 1/2 minus 1/4. So I'm going to use this space up here, 1/2 minus 1/4. I'm going to ask myself, are the denominators the same? They are not, so I need to make a common denominator. Now this is another great example where I know that 2 times 2 gives me 4. 2 is a factor of 4, so I can actually keep my 4th here, save myself a step. And we're going to turn this 2 into a 4 on the top. So you're going to leave a space and put equals something over 4. Now you're going to ask yourself, 2 times what gives you 4? 2 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom, so you write the times 2 on the top. Then I do 1 times 2 is 2. And you might have known that 1/2 is 2/4. And as you do this more and more, you'll get to know those better. Now my denominator is the same. I can just subtract the numerators and then keep the denominator. 2 minus 1 is 1. And then the denominator stays the same. Anytime I have a 1 in the numerator, I know that it is already simplified. Okay, let's do 7/8 minus 1/4. 7/8 minus 1/4. So the denominators are not the same. I need to get a common denominator. And again, we've got this special circumstance where I actually can multiply 4 to get to this number. 4 times 2 gives me that number. So I get to keep this one. It's a freebie. 7/8. And then I'm going to change this one's denominator to 8. 4 times what gives me 8? 4 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 1 times 2 is 2. Now my denominators are the same. I can just add or subtract. This is a subtraction problem. 7 minus 2 is 5, and the denominator stays the same. 5 is a prime number. It's only divisible by 1 and 5, and I can't divide 8 by 5, so this is simplified. Okay, let's do problem number 3. 7/12 minus 1/6. I ask myself, are the denominators the same? They are not the same, so I need to get a common denominator. So my first check is going to be, can I use the bigger number? Ooh, I can, because I can multiply 6 up to 12. So this one I'm going to rewrite. 7/12. I get to keep that one. It's a freebie. And I'm going to change this denominator to 12. Equals something over 12. 6 times what gives you 12? 6 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. I write my times 2 up there. And then I do that across. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I've got denominators that are the same. I can add or subtract. This is a subtraction problem. 7 minus 2 is 5, and the denominator stays the same. I'm going to ask myself if that's simplified. Well, 5 is a prime number. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and I can't divide 12 by 5. So 1 is my greatest common factor, so it is simplified. Okay, let's go to the back. Let's go to the back page. Excuse me. Come on, thing. Get up to the top. There we go. Okay. It says, the average rainfall in April and October for Springfield is shown in the table below. How much more, that means subtract, rain falls on average in April, the first number, than October? So we've got this chart, average rain and springfall, April, October. April's going to be my top number because it's listed first. So I've got 11/16 minus 3/8. I want you to pause the video here, and I want you to try and do that one on your own and then come back and check your work. Just that problem, just number 4. Pause the video. Okay. If you are done with that problem, you can check your work now. If you have not finished, make sure you pause and try on your own. But you should be checking your work now. So I've got 11/16 and 3/8, and I asked myself, ooh, they have a special relationship together. I can multiply 8 up to 16. I always look at that bigger number to see if I can do that. So I get a freebie, you guys. I only have to change one of them. So I'm going to leave a space here and put equals something over 16. I'm going to ask myself, 8 times what is 16? 8 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 3 times 2 is 6. My denominators are the same. I now can just subtract or add. This is a subtraction problem. 11 minus 6 is 5, and I keep the denominator. And then I ask myself, is that simplified? Well, 5 is a prime number. Its only factors are 1 and 5. I can't divide 16 by 5. My greatest common factor is 1. It is simplified. Okay, let's work on problem number 5 now. Trisha helped clean up her neighborhood by picking up plastic. She collected 3/4 of a pound of plastic the first day and 1/6 of a pound of plastic the second day. How much more, that's our sign for subtraction, did she collect the first day than the second? So the first day is going to be listed first. So 3/4 minus 1/6. Now, I can't multiply 4 times anything to get to 6, so I'm going to have to find a different common denominator. I want you to try and do this one. Please pause the video here. Pause the video here, and I want you to try and do that one on your own, and then come back and check your work. Pause the video, do that one on your own, and come back and check your work. Okay, so we know we can't multiply 4 up to 6, so I have to think of something else that these have in common. So I'm going to list my multiples of 4. So I've got 4, 8, I'm skip counting, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Now, I'm just going to stop there and see if I went far enough. I might have to go more, 32, but let's see. I'm going to go back through this list and look and see if there's anything divisible by 6. Or I can write out my factors of 6. 6, 12. Look at that, you guys. I already found it. 12. So you could have done 24. If you did 24, that also is a factor. 6, 12, 18, 24, 36. And that you could also do 36. So you can do any common denominator. It doesn't matter which one you do. And if you never know, remember you can multiply them together, which would give you 24. You know that's going to be a common denominator. But if you do the least common denominator, you're going to save yourself some steps in simplifying. So I'm going to change them into 12ths. You could have done 24, 36. 4 times what gives me 12? 4 times 3. So I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I do my bottom fraction. 6 times what gives me 12? 6 times 2. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7 twelfths. 7 is a prime number. Its factors are only 1 and 7. I can't divide 12 by 7. 1 is left. So my simplified answer is 7 twelfths. If you changed this to 24ths, your answer that you would have got would have been 14 24ths. And then you would have had to have divided out a 2 on the top and a 2 in the bottom, which gives you 7 twelfths. So you still can get the same answer, but you would have had to do that extra step of simplifying. You would have got 14 24ths, and then you would have needed to simplify that. They're both even numbers, so you can divide out a 2. Okay, let's do number 6. Wyatt is hiking a trail that is 11 twelfths of a mile long. I circle that. After hiking 1/4 of a mile, he stops for water. How much farther does he have to hike? So the whole thing is 11 twelfths of a mile, and he's gone 1/4 of a mile. How much does he have left? So that's a subtraction problem. So it's going to be 11 twelfths minus 1/4. I would like you guys to pause the video here, and do that problem on your own. 11 twelfths minus 1/4. Pause the video here and do that on your own, and then come back and check your work. Okay, so there's lots of things you could have done to get a common denominator for these two. Probably the easiest one is to keep this guy 11 twelfths and change this one to a 12th. But if you didn't think of that, you could of course have multiplied. So I'm going to do it that way. We're going to get to the same answer no matter what. So I'm going to pretend that I couldn't think of what to do, so I multiplied them together. 4 times 12 is 48. 48. I'm going to change the denominators to 48. Remember, it doesn't matter which denominator you choose as long as it's in common. Okay, 12 times what is 48? 12 times 4. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 11 times 4 is 44. The bottom one, 4 times what is 48? 4 times 12. I do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. 1 times 12 is 12. My denominators are the same. I can add or subtract. This is a subtraction problem, so I'm going to subtract 44 minus 12. Now, I can't do that in my head. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, so my answer that I got is 32, and I keep the denominator 48. But I know I can simplify that because they're both even, so I know I can at least take out a 2. It's possible I can take out more, so let's check. 32 divided by 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Well, I don't even know 32 divided by 2. Do the math. 16. Okay, so I've got 16, and then 48 divided by 2 is 24. 16 24ths. But those are still even, so I know I can at least take out a 2. So I'm going to divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. Finally, I know this fact. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Oh, wait a minute. Mrs. Bodell has made a mistake. 8/12. Oh, I haven't done the answer yet. Never mind. Okay. 8/12 is my answer. 24 divided by 2. No, I haven't made a mistake. But those are both still even, so I can still divide out a 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. But they're both still even, so I can still divide out. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. The answer is 2/3. 2/3. Now, that was a lot of simplifying. And so if you changed the denominators to 12ths, you still would have had to simplify, but you would have had to do just a few more steps. So your answer, no matter what you chose, once you simplify, should be 2/3. If you got 8/12 or 4/6, you're right, you just still need to simplify it down. Okay, last question, you guys. The table shows the distance each student ran on Wednesday. How much farther did Joey, remember how much farther means subtract, did Joey than Steve? So Joey's my top one and Steve's my bottom. Here's Joey, 2/3, it says that in the table, and Steve is 1/6. Joey is 2/3, Steve is 1/6. I want you to pause the video here and go ahead and work out that problem. Pause the video here and work out that problem. 2/3 minus 1/6. Okay, there's a lot of common denominators we can choose here. If we wrote out our 3 facts, we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. And if we wrote out our 6 facts, we've got 6, 12, 18, 24. So already we've got 6 in common, 12 in common, 18 in common, 24 in common. These numbers share a lot in common. And so let me see if I can get a little bit closer for you guys. There we go. So there's so many in common here, but when we choose the least one in common, we have to do the least amount of simplifying. So that's why it's helpful to use the least. And 3 times 2 gives me 6, so I can keep this one. If we choose 6, I get to save myself some work. So I'm going to leave a space equals something over 6. We're going to use sixths for this. So 3 times what gives me 6? 3 times 2. 2 times, same thing on the top, same thing on the bottom, so 2 times 2 is 4. So now I've got 4/6 minus 1/6. 4 minus 1 is 3. And I keep the denominator 6. Oh, but Mrs. Bodell, I don't see that answer on there at all. There's not anything. There's 5/6, but there's not 3/6. Oh, but it's not simplified. What can I divide out of both 3 and 6? A 3. 3 divided by 3 equals 1. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. The answer is C, 1/2. And you might have known that 3 is half of 6, and so you could easily turn that into a half. Great work today, my friends. Keep up the great work, and I hope you have a great afternoon.